Hello and welcome back to the news from Kazakhstan. I'm Marina Kim and these are the top stories. A new criminal case is instigated against the former head of Kazakhstan Mukhtar Jakishev. An appeal addressing the situation with the freedom of speech in Kazakhstan is made during an OSCE conference in Poland. Official trade unions award President Nazarbayev with a badge of honor. Independent unions report systematic violation of workers' rights. The already convicted Mukhtar Jakishev is arrested for the second time. On Thursday, the judge of the Saryarka District Court, Nurjan Zholdashbekov, who already sentenced Jakishev once to 14 years of imprisonment, approved the arrest on the second case, currently under investigation by the National Security Committee.
According to Jamila Jakisheva, the second criminal case also concerns uranium deposits and is considered classified. Her husband is charged with illegal sale of Kazakh uranium deposits to foreign investors. The already convicted once Mukhtar Jakishev will remain in the investigation ward of the National Security Committee until the end of the new trial. Thus, his charges of the release due to a revised verdict dropped to zero. In the meantime, Jakishev's attorney Nurlan Beysikiev is drafting a complaint to the Supreme Court, still hoping to appeal the early verdict. A man should be tried at once for all currently present charges. This is how it should be. But for reasons unknown, our system split the charges into two trials. Jakishev was convicted for some episodes and has yet to be tried for others. This could go on forever in our country after they find some supposedly new evidences.
The convicted director of the Human Rights Bureau, Evgeny Zhovtis, who is also seen by many as a political prisoner, intends to sue the head of the prison settlement where he serves his term. The suit was submitted recently to the country's Supreme Court.
The suit resulted from a reprimand issued to Evgeny Zhovtis on November 18, 2009 for his refusal to sign an employment contract with the prison administration. The human rights activist declined to assume the position of the safety engineer. In response, the administration issued a half-a-year visitation ban, as well as the denial of the right to live outside the prison settlement. Zhovtis believes his punishment is illegitimate, however courts refused to accept his suit. The Ust-Kamenogorsk City Court readdressed the motion to Almaty, the place of Zhovtis' residence, while the Almaty court sent it back to Ust-Kamenogorsk, the current dislocation of the convict. Now the Supreme Court will have to make the final decision. Previously, Zhovtis was sentenced to 4 years for a fatal traffic accident. We had appealed to court to lift a penalty in a speedy manner, but he fully served that penalty. It was over by mid-May, and yet he still don't know whether it was legal or not.
Igor Kolov, an activist of the unregistered party Alga from Kostanay, was released from jail on Thursday. Previously, the court of the town Rudny had sentenced him to 3 days of administrative arrest for disorderly conduct. In response, Kolov went on a 3-day-long hunger strike in his cell to protest the fabricated accusations.
Kolov's associates said that guards placed 2 drunken men in the activist's cell, which proceeded to initiate a fight. Now the dissident has scratches on his face and some chest pain. According to the preliminary information, Kolov was forced to settle the matter peacefully and not to press charges against his cellmates. Currently, the activist is in the party office preparing for litigations. We're taking pictures and videotaping his condition to present it as evidence in the future.
Violation of human rights and unlawful arrests in Kazakhstan were discussed on Thursday in Warsaw, Poland, during an OSCE conference. Members of the Kazakh delegation used the opportunity to read out their appeal with the demand to review the situation with the freedom of speech in the country.
Kazakh authorities must stop pressuring independent press and bring media legislation to the OSCE standards. This appeal to representatives of the organization member states was made on Thursday in Warsaw during the session of the Freedom of Speech and Mass Media. Most of the 10 points message directly concerns the online video portal Stan.kz. Just recently, the Ust-Kamenogorsk staff reporter of the company Alla Stepanova came under the scrutiny of the local authorities.
Добрый вечер. В эфире Стан ТВ. Новости среды 6 октября. В студии Сергей Исаенко. Пока анонс главных тем дня.
And now the reporting crew constantly finds itself tailed by the law enforcement agents. To be honest, I didn't expect officials to use these methods of work with journalists. There is no freedom of speech to speak of when reporters are objected to non-stop shadowing and psychological pressure. An expert of a well-respected human rights organization, Adilsos, believes that the situation with Stepanova shows an example of obstruction of journalistic activity. Judging by the information we have, there is a violation of journalists' professional rights because her activities are protected by the Constitution's Article 20 and also the law on mass media. Besides the episode with the Ust-Kamenogorsk reporting crew, Stan in general operates in a state of a permanent tax audit. Launched at the request of the financial police, it continues for already 6 months, although the law limits similar audits by 30 days.
An important staff reshuffle within higher level was announced in Kazakhstan on October 7th.
Solidat Kairbekova was appointed as the new health minister, replacing Jaksılık Doskaliyev, who is charged with embezzlement. Previously, Kairbekova served as a vice minister in the same department. The earlier dismissed education minister Jansi Tuminbayev was appointed as Kazakhstan's ambassador to Turkey. Bahadjan Jumagulov, director of the Al-Farabi Kazakh State University, was appointed to the position of the education minister. Galimkair Mutanov, who formerly chaired the technical university in eastern Kazakhstan, now holds the position of the state university rector.
In the meantime, President's Executive Secretary Saribay Kalmurzaev is in coma, treated in a German hospital, reported on Thursday the newspaper Svoboda Slova, the freedom of speech. Previously, several news agencies claimed the official had a massive stroke, which supposedly happened due to a questioning by the law enforcement agents.
According to the publication, Kalmurzaev is secretly considered a patron of a strong clan of Southerners presented in the government of the country. Some rumors say that lately the official has lost its favor with the leader of the nation. The Office of the President's Affairs confirms that Kalmurzaev is on a sick leave, but should be back by October 12th. Interestingly, strokes are becoming quite common among the high-ranking officials. Health Minister Jaksılık Doskaliyev, charged with embezzling state funds, also supposedly had a stroke about a week ago. Physicians note the constantly growing rate of nervous system diseases. 400,000 stroke cases, 50,000 of which are lethal, are registered in Kazakhstan annually. These patients require rehabilitation, which is a complex process that requires massive investment of efforts and money. The situation with rehabilitation in Kazakhstan could be better.
Vladimir Kim sold 11% of his shares in the corporation Kazakhmys less than a month after the passing of Vladimir Ni. The deal was registered by the Kazakh Stock Exchange with no prior notification. During the funeral of his patron, Vladimir Kim, the board chair of Kazakhmys, said, quote, "Kazakhstan's Koreans would never leave this good if not for Vladimir Ni." Find out the cost of the deal and other details from the next story.
Entrepreneur Vladimir Kim became richer by $1,342 million less than a month after the passing of Vladimir Ni. Experts believe that, with no ability to introduce a similar political player into the corporation to save the stability of the game, Kim faced a choice of either joining with the former Eurasian Industrial Corporation or increase the state's role in the strategic mining sector. As a result, the state has increased its stake in Kazakhmys to 26%, including the share of the Finance Ministry's State Property Committee. Even referring to the strengthening of Kairat Kelimbetov's group, we talk about relative concepts, since Samruk-Kazanar represents interests of other players as well, including Timur Kulibayev and Karim Masimov. This means that the political and informal control remains in limbo in terms of affiliation with some political groups, although all interests are met from the state's standpoint. The board chair of the copper giant found himself in the advantage as well, as Vladimir Kim gets to keep almost 28% of the corporation's shares. His multi-billion capital, which promptly places him in the Forbes list, is now quite tangible. Kim became less dependent on the Kazakhmys' changing state. This makes experts assume that despite all assurances that the board chair will continue to be involved in all the matters of the corporation, in reality, his hands are now untied and he can safely manage his funds.
I
believe he needs it. No one ever refuses cash, even in such amounts. I think he will diversify his business and will find place and time to invest his capital in some other promising directions. It will be clear whether the state overpaid or underpaid Vladimir Kim for regaining a part of the strategic sector only upon the results of the financial year, say economists. It is worth mentioning that Kim has long been talking about introducing Kazakhmys at the Hong Kong and Singapore stock exchanges, which will undoubtedly raise the price of the company's shares. Experts say the Kazakhmys became the first sign of the possible forthcoming division of Vladimir Ni's other spheres of influence, with IT and retail next in line.
Commodity exchanges are reporting about the new growth of Kazakh grain prices. In October, the futures for low-quality grain jumped by $3.50, stopping at the mark of $242 per ton.
Experts know that at the moment the market is in anticipation for a drop of grain prices. Russia has already refused to buy the domestic grain due to the elevated costs. Other regional importers of Kazakh wheat have cut down on their purchases for exactly the same reason. Because of the drought this summer, Russia banned its export of grain while Kazakhstan decided against the embargo to conquer the world market, as it was explained by the President Nazarbayev. Unfortunately, farmers will suffer the most in this situation. They had to sell a part of the harvest to the full corporation at lowered price and anticipated to cover losses through import. A ton of grain costs $250, but farmers are forced to sell it for $190. It is not a fair price, and it doesn't cover all costs, while yield is only 2 to 3 tons per hectare.
The trend with growing prices has affected buckwheat as well. Due to poor harvest, Kazakhstan is announcing the ban on export of buckwheat, vegetable oil and oilseeds starting October 17th, while also calling other countries of the customs union to do the same. Officials in the Pavlodar region now plan to cut the stabilization fund in half and cease the export to other regions of the country.
Kazakhstan is experiencing the growth of buckwheat prices. The agro-rich region of Pavlodar has depleted its resources of domestically grown buckwheat, and the Russian import comes at the cost of $2.50 per kilo. Buckwheat is no longer delivered. This is all we have left at the wholesale price of $1 per kilo. The consumers are outraged, as some of them will have to exclude buckwheat from their rations. The prices are growing every day, but the pension remains the same. This is really bad. Nazarbayev and journalists said there will be no increase of prices, but they still grow. We will have to buy less buckwheat, but we will not exclude it completely. We will substitute buckwheat with rice. The new harvest has yet to reach the market, say officials, but even the new delivery is not likely to change the situation. Only less than 200 kilos out of plant 6 was harvested per hectare. The last storm just before the harvesting majorly damaged buckwheat fields. According to the statistics agency, the country's reserve fund has only 2,000 tons of buckwheat left, with an annual demand of 20. Pavlodar authorities are now likely to cancel their export plans and decrease the stabilization fund twofold.
Almaty is hosting an international exhibit conference Kyogi 2010. This year, the major Central Asian oil and gas forum is attended by around 500 companies from 30 countries across the globe. The opening was attended by the oil minister Sauat Munbayev and the board chairman of the national company Kazmunaygas Kergildi Kabildin. The latter revealed that his company is planning to start buying assets abroad and need tax preferences for the development of low-profit deposits.
As a commercial organization, we bear the entire tax burden due to the introduction of the new tax code at the beginning of the year. We're talking about 64%. In addition, the export duties are certainly an extra tax burden, which will add another 4% to make a total of 68%. The national company intends to maintain the positions of the major player in the market of the country, given that the state fuel reserves exceeded 5 billion tons, with an annual production of just about 100 million tons. In addition, almost a third of all oil and gas circulation in the country goes through Kazmunaygas. The rest of the market is formed by the US, China and Russia, holding 27%, 22% and 10% respectively. However, despite the dominance of the market, Kazakh oil giant will not have any tax incentives. The decision on the export duty was adopted by the government. This is not the right time to discuss its pros and cons. All talks were held previously before the decision was made.